All right, we are live today in Hogs HQ studio with the one, the only, the venerable George Porter Jr. How are you, George?
Just fine, sir. And you?
I'm doing great. Are you in New Orleans right now?
Yes, I am. I'm actually in my home on the third floor in my studio.
That's great. So for those of you watching, it is actually the Wednesday before Mardi Gras. So things are about to turn up here in New Orleans for both of us. So we don't have much time. We kind of have to get to where we need to be for tonight, the crew of Knicks. So I'm pretty excited about that. So we'll kind of get it started, George. You know, it's always an honor and a pleasure to have you on the Hogs lineup. And believe it or not, it's our 15th anniversary, and this is your fourth time playing Hogs for the Cause.
That's pretty cool. I thought it was only three, but I guess it's four.
Yeah, I went back and kind of ran the numbers and did the math, and there's only one person who's played Hogs more than you, and you're going to be collabing with him this year at Hogs, and that's Anders Osborne.
Oh,
So
cool,
he's the
cool.
only other person who's played Hogs more than you.
All right.
So, so we're really excited. This year you're going to be collaborating with not only Anders Osborne but with Devin Allman and with JoJo Herman from Widespread Panic as well. Love for you to kind of walk us through your thoughts on working with those artists and how y'all kind of get in a groove together and how that really comes together on stage live.
Well, it's been each one of those guys. I mean, I've played, but each one of them individually. In fact, I have a date coming up with both both JoJo, and then another one day. I think the Sunday before Mardi Gras with Anders's Bacchus play date. But we just Running Partners just did some of the Allman Family reunion or revival. What is it called? Allman Family Revival,
Right.
which we did 5 dates with them out in Florida, and it was pretty good. We do, and I also would stick around and play a couple of songs with the band, with the family band, which was always fun.
And it's definitely not your first time playing with JoJo or really any of the widespread guys. That's for sure. I know you guys have done some of your own outfits performances as well. So I know we're all really looking forward to seeing what that's going to become at this year's Hogs.
Yeah, well, we played Running Partners. Did a performance with the Widespread Panic guys. They opened a show for Running Partners in Baton Rouge when they on their first time coming to New Orleans. It was well over 20 some more plus years ago,
Wow.
and
Now that's
and
pretty incredible.
it was for fraternity house that fraternity group of guys that got together, rented a space, and played and set it up for us. No, actually, it wasn't. They didn't open for us. We opened for them. That's what it was. Because now I remember the story real well. And after we had played the set, we came off stage, and Big Dave Schools walked up to me and said, "Well, man, I guess we don't know what we're going to play now. Y'all played half of our songs." It was kind of funny.
Well, what goes kind of through your preparation or your head when, a lot of the times you have played with these artists before and you kind of do know how they tend to groove and whatnot. But when you are walking into these collabs and you have your sense of style and your rhythm section, but sometimes you're playing with a different rhythm section. How do you get into that I guess the tempo and get into the zone for you and how does it all come together into such magic when you're so unfamiliar with one another?
Well, I kind of believe that it has more to do with how much attention you're paying to what's going on around you.
Right.
I have a kind of a self-imposed rule that when I go to these type of gigs, that I go there with my mind wide open and ready for whatever comes my way. And the first thing first is that I try and lock with the drummer, and get and be as as close to the drummer as I can. I mean, it's not all the times songs, per se. The knowledge of songs has anything to do with the knowledge of the groove, and so when I feel as a bass player, as close as I can get to the drummer, his pocket is going to pretty much dictate, where the groove is, and the pocket that I should climb into. So
And how long? How can that be immediate if you know that drummer, you kind of know that sense of
no,
style, and
I
you
mean,
know.
if you don't have to know the drummer, you just have to pay attention to him. you know, yeah, I'm not sure who's the drummer going to. I mean, I'm assuming that the drummer and the band is probably the same guys that's been playing on the family reunion so far. And that drummer, I'm familiar with where he is, and and we, and it actually is two drummers in that band. So and their names both always escape me. But I just know what my job is. My job is
Right.
to get in the middle between these two drummers, and make my, it's going to make my life much easier. The closer I can get to them, the better, better I'm going to feel about where I'm at in the music. And the chord changes, I have a great set of ears, and I can, if I don't know the song, the first time they threw it, it's going to come to me, I'll be paying attention. But usually, when since stuff like this happens, we probably have a few minutes backstage before we go on and discuss songs, So it's not like you're going to be going up there blind, you're going to have some
Right.
idea, it's just, just you never know when you're playing, you just got to pay attention, because if somebody turns left and you turn right, then we're going to be on different playing fields, so we just got to know that, that you got to pay attention to those front guys, because those guys that's who up front, when they make those turns, you just got to be able to go with them,
And I think that there's going to be quite a few turns when you got JoJo out there as well as Anders and then Devin himself. That's a lot of guys that can really take you in a lot of different directions. So I think it's, I'm excited by it, but
Yeah,
I don't have to play the music.
I truly believe that that it's gonna be, everyone's gonna be paying attention to what other, there's nobody going out there to try and look better than the other guy.
Right.
It's they don't have to do that anymore. I mean, that was something that happened when they were kids. They're grown up adults that know where they are now musically, and know what they're bringing to the table, and to the music. So, everybody, when everyone, like I said, when everyone is paying attention to what everybody else is doing, it's an easy gig.
Well, I think it's going to definitely make for some magic here in a couple of weeks. One of the things that I look at when I kind of look at this album and I think about, you know, I can't imagine what was going through your head as a young man in Cosmos Studios and producing the Meters' first self-titled album and Sissy Strut comes out. What was that moment like for you? And did you have any idea that that would go on to inspire so many different acts after you?
Not at all. I don't believe the Meters, even all the way up to the point where they had broke up, had really realized how inspirational they were, as a band. I think that if they really had paid much attention to what they were doing, at the time when they were doing it, it would have been better. I think we'd have probably, you know lasted longer than we did as a band. But unfortunately, well, fortunately, I say not unfortunately, but fortunately for us, that the music itself outlasted the band. And at this point, there's the music has allowed us individually to continue as solo artists. It
Yeah,
helps. I don't think I lean on the brand, the Meters, as much as some of the other guys does, but
Sure.
But maybe for the last 25 years, I've been working hard at trying to develop George Porter's brand.
And I think you've done a pretty good job at that. So congratulations to you. It's been amazing, for somebody who I was born 10 years after that original Meters album, and I
Yeah.
think personally that I know more your music with Runnin Partners probably almost more than I know the Meter stuff. So yeah, you've just done an excellent job. Continuing what you continue to do so well. One question that I'm kind of curious about as we're are is you've had such a storied career is are you still inspired by bands today? Are there people that you kind of current artists that you look at and go, wow, that is really innovative, or it's great to see music come from this far? Are there bands that inspire you?
Well, but, my un how do I say this? It's not a pleasant way to say it. I'm not. I don't really listen to a lot of music at all. It's just because I'm really am working hard on trying to develop my songwriting skills. So the less I live hear what other people are doing, my chances of creating something that I feel comfortable with. Whereas that somebody wants to say,
Right.
well, that sounds like so and so. 'Cause you get so much of that. There's so much of that going on out there. Is that it's hard. I mean, I'm thinking that it's hard to make those 13 notes, be
How far can they go?
refreshing.
Right.
But
Yeah, that was kind of one of my next questions was, how has your sound really evolved over the years, and how and what is that process for you? I mean, you kind of spoke to it, how to get those 13 notes to sing, I guess,
Well,
in different directions.
with running partners, I think our longevity has been because the personnel, the players that's in this version of running partners, because this would if I had to count the total numbers of bands since um, 1984, I believe, when the World's Fair was 1984 in New Orleans. So that's when the Running Partners as a band, first evolved into a band in 1984, right after the World's Fair. Um, I think it had to be at least seven bands or seven versions of that band. It started off as a trio, ended up as and ended up back being a quartet. But between there and now, I've had full horns. I've had a version of the band where it was two keyboard players. And then I've had a version of the band when it was just two horns, and then three horns. It kind of it moves around. And at Jazz Fest, pretty much almost the last 4 or 5 Jazz festivals, I've always done it with four horn players. Just because every Jazz Fest I try and do some of the old music as well as whatever new music I'm presenting that particular year. Um, but like I said, the players, I've encouraged the individuals in the band, to be element, of where they come from, the keyboard player, Michael Lemler plays with another George named George French in town, New Orleans bass player, and he gets to play more jazz on that gig.
Right.
So, I encourages him, to say, man, when you're taking solos, man, you know, take a bebop solo, and he say, well, man, we're playing funky knuckles. I said, yeah, I said, but bebop and funky knuckles is getting along these days.
It always everything's going to continue to recycle and kind of come back. It seems like.
Yeah, yeah. And
Uh,
the new kid on the block is Chris Atkins, the guitarist, and he's a wonderful player. And he has a lot of he's like a sponge. He just he gets around. He's been around. He's played with Maria Maldo. He's played with a bunch of artists. And so he brings a lot to the table as well. So we've just been doing it. And then last but not least is the drummer, the guardian of the groove, is Terrence Houston. And
Yeah.
he's just, you can't say enough about him. This kid got ears so big. It's like, and the band could go off and get lost whenever we want. We can go out into space and get lost out there in space. And we always know that we can come home because he always know where one is. He always know where that pocket is, and that's one of the most important things about for me, for music, is somebody has to know where one is.
And I was going to ask that about that pocket and kind of the relationship to the audience. I mean, does your energy to this day still change when you're hearing, crowds singing your songs? And does that kind of energize you to different levels and sometimes take you off still?
Yeah, there's been times when you're listening to the audience sing the songs and they're a little off.
Ah,
But no, it's always a joy. On Jam Cruise, we just did Jam Cruise, and we did the Sail Away party. We was like the first band to play when the band took when the boat took off from the dock and headed out. And and for me, it was like I was like concerned, really concerned that being the first band, to play on this sound system on this stage on this
right,
particular day,
right.
because the stage, the sound system, and all the stage thing had not been tweaked. So
Sure.
being the first band to play, I was like freaking out. But we was so well received. It just blew my mind. And we played to a few thousand people, and and they stayed the whole set. It was like I was like, wow. I mean, I stopped my set like 9 minutes early because the boat, when it took off, we took off late, so the boat was kind of hitting him hard. he was
Oh,
he was moving kind of fast, and that the wind was hitting me in the right. I mean, I could see myself. I can taste my words coming back into my mouth. And my throat started hurting because it was just the wind was hitting me in the face just too hard. So
battling the elements. I mean, that's
yeah.
another. I think that's an underrated aspect most people don't consider with a lot of musicians is they got to go out in some weather that it's not a studio, it's not an indoor, it's not always the comforts of being inside, and you never know what your room is going to be. So it's just an amazing ability to kind of adhere and adapt to the elements. That's pro musician right there.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, we can't wait again, George. We're so thankful to have you continuing to play Hogs. Our crowd loves you and adores you, and always looks forward to you being on that lineup. It's whenever we release it, it's amazing how many texts I get. Whether we have national or local acts on the bill, it's always George Porter. Yeah, you're right. So we're looking forward to it this year, and I think it's going to be a great show with Devin Allman, JoJo Herman, and Anders Osborne, and of course the one, the only George Porter.
Yeah, I think it's going to be some fun. I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. It's going to be a good evening. A nice start to the weekend, I should say.
Well, we know it will be, and everybody's going to enjoy it. But appreciate you coming out into the studio today, and really respect your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. I see
You
you at
too.
the festival.